Good morning, Katerina. Could you test your audio, please?
Hi.
It's great, thank you. Good morning, Wendy. Could you test your audio and video, please?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning.
Can see you. Can you test your audio? No, I think you're muted.
Morning. Morning. No, not here.
No, we still can't hear you. We can see you, but not hear you.
Okay. Good morning. Good morning.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Julia Rady and I'm the chair of the Toronto Preservation Board. The clerk has confirmed that we have quorum, so I will now call meeting 32 of the Toronto Preservation Board to order. Welcome, everyone. This is a hybrid meeting with some members of staff and the public attending in person and others connected by video conference over the WebEx platform or calling in. This meeting is also being live streamed online at youtube.com/Toronto City Council Live. Because we are meeting in person and remotely, we ask for your patience with any delays and technical issues. If you are registered to speak at today's meeting, please listen for me to call your name. I will call speakers in the order they appear on the list. The list of speakers can be viewed online by visiting the Toronto Preservation Board at toronto.ca/council and clicking the speakers box for today's meeting. I would like to request that staff and invited participants, as well as all observers joining remotely, keep their video turned off unless they need to speak or answer questions. This will make it easier for me as chair to see the members as we debate and vote on the agenda items. I also ask that all members keep their microphones muted unless you wish to question staff or speak to an item. If members wish to speak on an item, please make sure your video is on and raise your hand or unmute your mic and indicate your intention to speak, and I will create a speakers list. When voting on an item or a motion, I ask members to turn on your video and raise your hand to indicate your vote. If there is a recorded vote, you will be asked to state if you are in favor or opposed. Members, the City Clerk has provided all agenda materials on toronto.ca/council. And as a reminder, please submit and approve your motions by email. Staff are available at hertpb@toronto.ca to help with motions. And although we may be meeting in different locations today, the Preservation Board would like to acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Are there any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? If you do have an interest, please raise your hand or unmute your mic and indicate the item number and the nature of the interest. Seeing none, may I please have a motion to confirm the minutes from our meeting on May the 14th, 2025? I'll move that. All those in favor? And the motion carries. Thank you. We'll now do the agenda review. Our first item is PB 32.1, 132, 136, 138, 142, 144, and 148 Dundas Street West and 24 Jefferson Avenue, inclusion on the Heritage Register. We have a presentation from planning staff available if the board would like to hear it. Would anybody care to hold this item? Jeff, thank you. The next item is PB 32.2, 2255 Sheppard Avenue East, inclusion on the Heritage Register. There's a presentation from Heritage Planning staff available if the board would like to hear it. Would anybody care to hold this item? Jeff, thank you. The next item is PB 32.3, property included on the city's Heritage Register, consideration of objection for 1751 Bayview Avenue. We have a presentation from Heritage Planning staff available if the board would like to hear it. Would anybody like to hold this item? Mitchell. PB 32.4, 604 Bay Street, including entrance address 610 Bay Street, alterations to and demolition of heritage attributes of a designated property under sections 33 and 34 of the Ontario Heritage Act, and authority to enter into a heritage easement agreement. We have public speakers registered on this item, so I will hold it. PB 32.5, 15 Glen Morris Street, alterations to and demolition of heritage attributes of a designated property under Section 33 and 34 of the Ontario Heritage Act and authority to enter into a heritage easement agreement. We have public speakers registered on this item, so I will hold it. And finally, we have PB 32.6, Toronto Heritage Grant Awards. There are public speakers registered on this item, so it will be held as well. So moving back to the beginning, we have PB 32.1. And we'll welcome Lindsay.
Okay, can everyone hear me okay? Perfect. Okay, so my name is Lindsay Parsons, and I am a heritage planner in heritage planning with the Toronto Heritage Survey team. I'm pleased to present this report today and would like to recognize the support of Gary Miedema. This report recommends 132, 136, 138, 142, 144, and 148 Dundas Street West, and 24 Jefferson Avenue for inclusion on the Heritage Register as listed properties. Next slide. The subject properties at 132, 136, 138, 142, 144, and 148 Dundas Street West are located on the northeast corner of Dundas Street West and Elizabeth Street in the Young Bay Corridor neighborhood and comprise of a 3-story apartment building. Staff have undertaken research and evaluation for the properties and believe that the properties have cultural heritage value or interest and meet at least one of the criteria prescribed in Ontario Regulation 906 for including a non-designated property on a municipal register under Section 27 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Constructed in 1907, the subject properties known as a Weinberg Apartments hold design value as a representative example of an early 20th century brick walk-up apartment building with Edwardian classical design influences. The subject property is also associated with the important Toronto architect, F.H. Herbert, who designed the building for Harry Weinberg, an entrepreneur in the ward's Jewish community. The property has contextual value for supporting, maintaining, and defining the surviving early 20th century Main Street character of the block of Dundas Street West between Bay and Elizabeth Streets within the city's historically significant former neighborhood, the Ward. Next slide. The subject property at 24 Jefferson Avenue, including entrance address to Jefferson Avenue, is located between Jefferson Avenue and Party Avenue to the north of the rail corridor and south of Liberty Street in the South Parkdale neighborhood. Staff have undertaken research and evaluation for the property and believe that the property has cultural heritage value or interest and meets at least one of the criteria prescribed in Ontario Regulation 906 for including a non-designated property on a municipal register under Section 27 of the Ontario Heritage Act. The property has design value as a representative example of an early 20th century factory warehouse type building. The west and north portion of the C-shaped building was constructed circa 1905 and are attributed to the leading Toronto architect E.J. Lennox. The east portion of the building, fronting onto Jefferson Avenue, was designed by another important Toronto architect, F.H. Herbert, in 1912, who designed several industrial buildings in the Liberty Village area. The property is valued for maintaining and supporting the character of the former industrial area now known as Liberty Village, where it is part of an important collection of surviving industrial buildings. Built alongside the rail corridor and directly linked to it through rail spurs, the property is also physically, visually, and historically linked to its surroundings. Next slide. And we've included an image of the north and west elevation of the property at 24 Jefferson Avenue in the 1980s, prior to the property being overclad. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. Do we have questions of staff? Seeing none, is there discussion amongst ourselves? Seeing none, I have a staff report with recommendations before us. Would anybody care to move the recommendations in the report? Mitchell, thank you very much. All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lindsay. Moving on to PB 32.2. Good morning, Patrick.
Presenting on item PB 32.2, 2255 Sheppard Avenue East, inclusion on the Heritage Register. The subject property at 2255 Sheppard Avenue East is located on the south side of Sheppard Avenue East between Consumers Road and Victoria Park Avenue in the Henry Farm neighborhood. It contains a 4-story late modernist commercial office building constructed in 1978 for Marathon Realty. The property was designed by prominent Canadian architect Ronald Thom, whose portfolio includes Massey College at the University of Toronto and Trent University in Peterborough. Following research and evaluation by staff, it has been determined that the subject property has cultural heritage value as it meets the following criteria under Ontario Regulation 906 of the Ontario Heritage Act. The subject property has design and physical value as a representative example of a late modernist style commercial office building. The style is represented by the property's horizontally oriented floor plan, ribbon windows, and anodized aluminum shadow panel cladding. The property also has value because it demonstrates and reflects the work and ideas of prominent Canadian architect Ronald Thom. The property's low massing, aluminum exterior cladding, skylit interior atrium, and park-like surroundings are hallmarks of Ronald Thom's designs, where he sought to create spaces for people. Given the property's cultural heritage value, this report recommends that 2255 Sheppard Avenue East be included on the City of Toronto's Heritage Register. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have questions of staff? Just waiting to see my members online. Questions of staff? Seeing none, discussion amongst ourselves. Jeff, please.
Just a comment that as former chair of the North York panel, I'm pleased to see this property because it's modernist, it's North York, and there ain't too many of those that appear on the agenda. So hallelujah. And I'm pleased to make the motion to approve this item.
Marvelous. Are there any other points of discussion? If not, then I see that Jeff has moved the recommendations in the report. All those in favor, please. Motion carries. Marvelous. Moving on to PB 32.3. Welcome, Gary.
Good morning. My name is Gary Miedema. I'm a project manager with Heritage Planning, and I will be pleased to present this report this morning. The Ontario Heritage Act provides for owners to object to listings on the Heritage Register. The Municipal Code requires staff to report on objections and for council to make a decision on whether the property should remain listed on the Heritage Register. Council's decision on objections to a listing is final. One objection to listing was received in the first quarter of 2025, and that is for 1751 Bayview Avenue, which is why we're here today. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. The subject property at 1751 Bayview Avenue is within the Leaside Bennington neighborhood and was identified through the Eglinton Young secondary plan as having potential cultural heritage value. At its meeting on December 18, 2024, Council adopted a staff recommendation supported by the Toronto Preservation Board to include 1751 Bayview Avenue on the city's Heritage Register. The owner has submitted an objection on a number of grounds, including the following, and I will read the words of the objection from the owner. The designation of the property appears arbitrary and does not align with the broader urban planning and development efforts on Bayview Avenue. The property does not exhibit any significant historical, architectural, or cultural value that would warrant such a designation. The absence of a consistent or standardized approach to heritage registration on Bayview Avenue further undermines the validity of the listing of their property, and a heritage designation imposes significant restrictions and financial burdens on property owners, limiting renovation, redevelopment, and modernization efforts, and the objection was appended as attachment 2 to the report. In response to the grounds cited, staff would first observe that the stated concerns refer to designation of the property, and this is in fact a listing of the property. And then for the record, just to define the difference there, inclusion on the Heritage Register as a listed property does not impose any restrictions on property owners, except insofar as an owner must give 60 days, at least 60 days notice of the intention to demolish or remove a structure on the property. Inclusion on the Heritage Register as a listed property does not preclude an owner's ability to make interior alterations. Listing does not trigger maintenance requirements over above existing property standards and does not restrict adding any features to the property. The report addresses the remaining objections, reasserting that the property does have cultural heritage value in the opinion of staff, noting how the listing was not arbitrary, but followed 2011 nominations by the community, and again, identification through an area-wide cultural heritage resource assessment that did consider up and down Bayview Avenue and then recognized these properties through that study. After consideration of the objection to the listing of 1751 Bayview Avenue, staff are of the opinion that the subject property meets the criteria prescribed by Ontario Regulation 906 and is believed to hold cultural heritage value or interest. As such, despite the notice of objection, staff recommend that the property should remain listed on the city's Heritage Register. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have questions of staff? Jeff?
Well, my question would be, has the objector provided any kind of professional backing for his assertions, or his or her assertions? Pardon?
I heard the question, yeah, thank you. So through the chair, the objection as received in its entirety is attachment 2 to the report.
Which does not include any
It does not.
professional evidence of any kind?
No.
Thank you.
Are there other questions of staff? As I wait for my monitor just to show me my fellow members. Any questions from those attending online? Seeing none, moving to discussion amongst ourselves. Jeff?
Well, it was mentioned that the community nominated this property in 2011. Indeed, the North York Community Preservation Panel nominated it at that time, and it sat there until the application came in for a 35-story tower at the corner of Bayview and Eglinton, building over the Leaside Station. And staff in there, it involved a designated property at 1783-85 Bayview, and that was incorporated into the station. It was designated, it was incorporated into the station. And the staff report at that time, this was about 2 years ago, I guess, recommended staff bring forward for listing the rest of the quads that were not listed at that time. And so at that time there was 7, and so what this so staff did indeed come back within the period as requested by council, and so it meant that the 7 were listed as of December the 18th, 2024. And now there's one objection from among those 7 owners of the properties. I would make some comments in that one, we have a letter on file received from one of the owners requesting support for the staff report, confirming. We have letters from the North York Community Preservation Panel. We have letters from the Leaside Residents Association, all in support of confirming the listing. From a community perspective, it's really important that these properties not simply are listed. They are a group of 10. There will be basically a group of 8 contiguous as a result of the 35-story tower being constructed, whenever that is. But the it's basically, I would like to make a further motion that we move forward the listing, as everybody's aware, as a result of Bill 23 and then subsequently Bill 200. You only have a window of 2 years for listings. Listings evaporate after 2 years. So let's move forward on this to consider designation. 2 of the properties are designated right now as a result of previous applications and issues. Let's move ahead on the 7 that remain. I would request a motion. So basically, it's in sync with what happened 2 years ago with the 1779 to 1787 Bayview, the tower development over the Leaside Station. It would simply be in sync with the thought at that time that you need to consider the 10 and now the 8 as a grouping and not just individually. They have collective value, not just singular value.
Okay, I'm going to just hold for a little bit more discussion, and then I know that there's some wording beforehand. Is there any other discussion points, especially in response to what Jeff might have just said? Because I think it is, a significant issue that, we're moving forward with either a motion or listing, and we want to sort of have our due diligence done. But any other sort of discussion points? Paul?
I'm now regretting that I didn't ask Gary a question when we were asking questions to staff, but I'm just wondering if, I think the case for considering all these properties together is quite compelling, and I would hope that's how the process would move forward. It would be nice to know if staff are looking at the properties in an entirety, or I would hope they're not doing one by one. That's just a lot of duplicative work. But I'd certainly support that this is an issue of a group of properties and not simply one property.
I'm going to throw that to staff because, we just work fluidly a little.
We're going to roll. Thank you, through the chair. They have been dealt with collectively in that they were all listed together. We certainly understand them as a grouping, and yet designations currently, unless it's a heritage conservation district, need to be considered individually, at least in terms of, individual evaluation. They share many common themes and associations and architectural layout and style, but they are all different, actually, which is part of their charm. We certainly perceive them as a whole group and yet have to deal with them individually under the Heritage Act. So this really is just indicating that as a follow-up to the listing that happened for the remaining 7, one of the owners is concerned about being listed. So this report is very narrowly focused on that specific issue. And so consideration of designation for these properties will naturally be happening within the Bill 23 work because we'll be, roving across the city trying to get as many of the worthy properties designated before things, before they fall off the register. So this is really just a very specific technical matter that we're dealing with today, but the larger issue is they're part of the group that we're looking at.
Other questions or discussion? Jeff?
I just comment on Mary's response. From what I recall from the presentation that the North York panel was given a month or so ago, I don't think the Bayview quads were on that list. They were not prioritized.
We haven't completed our work yet.
Okay,
This
well,
is a
fair enough.
multi-year
They were not
project.
in
Yeah.
the ones in Leaside. There were only
Yeah,
3
we're-
properties in Leaside
We're moving
that were on the
through
list.
systematically, and we have prioritization criteria that
Yes.
we laid out to you, and so
Yeah.
that is being rolled out systematically to the panels. So we can bring that forward
Yeah.
in the next time we have our next meeting.
Is there other discussion? Jeff, do you want to move forward with your motion?
Yes, please.
All right, can we put that up on the screen, please? That the Toronto Preservation Board recommend that City Planning bring forward the 4-unit apartment house properties at 1747, 1751, 1759, 1763, 1767, 1771, and 1775 Bayview Avenue for designation under the Ontario Heritage Act by November 1st, 2026. Moved by Jeff. We're now going to move into discussion of this motion, which would amend the recommendations in the report. Are there any comments from my fellow members? Paul?
Yeah, I have to say, I think this would set without in any way arguing against the value of these properties, I think it would set a very bad precedent if this board begins to intervene into the prioritization of properties. We know that there are far more properties deserving than we will ever be able to designate under the current legislation, because we're going to time out in 2027. And so the question becomes, what process do you have to arrive at the properties that get the most attention soonest? And I don't think this board deliberating on those, save for maybe some gross error in judgment, which I don't think is happening here. If we were to start entertaining these, I can guarantee you, I would bet a box of donuts that we will have umpteen more requests from the community about compelling projects, because everybody has a view as to the compelling nature of some of these designations. And I just think we would be bringing ourselves into a situation we don't want, where we're doing all that cross-traffic. We do have discussions with Heritage Planning about the prioritization. My panel has certainly given feedback. We like the fact that there's an objective set of criteria. We don't necessarily agree with how everything fell out in that, but that's okay. It's not necessarily ours to say. So I just think it would be a step in the wrong direction to start having these discussions. Having said that, I think that the case for this property is as strong as any, so I'm certainly happy to see them in the mix. I would just be uncomfortable with trying to arbitrate the priority that Heritage Planning uses when they pick these properties.
Other discussion amongst my members? Seeing none, I think I would add that I echo the discomfort. Paul, what we have before us is an objection. It's a pretty discrete issue. What I think it does do is it amplifies the position that all of us who work and love heritage are in, where we want to see the careful conservation of our properties, and we want to have it done, I think, in a way. So there's a lot of trust in the system and in each other. We're all in the same boat. But I think good process is still really important in order to ensure future conservation. But that's in my opinion. Is there other discussion points? Seeing none, we have a motion to amend before us, moved by Jeff. All those in favor of that motion, please raise your hand. I see 3. All those opposed, please raise your hand. I've got 4. Where's the 5th? 1, 2, 3, 5. I can count, I promise. I promise. This is why I went into history, everybody, not math. 5, thank you. And the motion doesn't carry. We now move back to the original staff report. Is there any further discussion upon that report? Seeing none, I have a staff report with recommendations before us. Would anybody like to move the recommendations in that report? Jeff, thank you very much. All of those in favor, please raise your hand. And the motion carries. Moving on now to PB 32.4. Welcome, Erin.
Can you hear me? Excellent, thank you. Good morning. My name is Erin Smith. I'm a senior heritage planner with our development review team in heritage planning, and I'm presenting item PB 32.4 today regarding the designated heritage property at 604 Bay Street, including the entrance address at 610 Bay Street, regarding alterations to and demolition of heritage attributes under sections 33 and 34 of the Ontario Heritage Act, as well as authority to enter into a heritage easement agreement. Next slide, please. On this slide, you can see the subject property highlighted in red. It's spanning the south side of Edward Street, in between Bay Street and Elizabeth Streets. Next slide, please. The slide shows the property's principal east elevation as seen along Bay Street. The property is known as the former Gray Coach Terminal. It's a city-owned property. It was constructed in 1931 and comprises a two-story structure designed with Art Deco influences and served as the main terminal building, which was decommissioned in 2021. Next slide, please. This slide shows a view of the property's north and east elevations from the intersection of Bay and Edward, showing the 1.5-story covered bus yard that extends down the length of the Edward Street elevation. The bus yard originally had 4 bus bays and then was extended over the years to meet evolving and changing needs. Next slide, please. And this view shows the property as seen from the corner of Elizabeth Street and Edward Street. Next slide. Here you can see the interior of the terminal building, which does contain identified heritage attributes. Seen here, there is a 3-bay wide double-height entrance hall with a mezzanine. That's the main focal point of the interior, which originally functioned as the waiting room in the original floor plan. All of the original interior finishes and materials have been replaced, and parts of the mezzanine level that encircles the entrance hall have been enclosed, as you can see here. There's also a bifurcated staircase shown in the center that leads up to the mezzanine level and has a leaded glass window with the Gray Coach Line's crest shown here. Next slide, please. So the application that's before you today has been submitted in conjunction with Planning Act applications for the former Gray Coach Terminal. It's a city-owned property and led project and is one of the many city-owned sites that were selected for priority redevelopment through the Modern TO program, which was adopted by City Council back in October of 2019. Led by Create TO, the proposed redevelopment would include affordable rental housing as well as a new Toronto paramedic services hub. So shown on this slide is a broad depiction of the conservation strategy, which is showing the retention of the terminal building in blue, including its principal east, its north and south elevations, and the interior being retained in situ, with that west elevation to be integrated into the adjacent new construction. And you can see highlighted in pink would show the dismantling and the reconstruction of the former bus bays with alterations. Next slide, please. This slide shows a rendering of the project overall, which proposes a 16-story mixed-use addition above the heritage property. You can see here that the new massing is concentrated off of the retained terminal building with a 24.3-meter step back from the terminal building's principal elevation along Bay Street, with the 16-story mixed-use building concentrated above the reconstructed bus bays. Next slide, please. This is a close-up of the proposed north elevation, showing the reconstructed bus bays in their new configuration. So today what exists behind the bus bays is an open full-height space, and the application is proposing to demolish the bus bays by way of dismantling and to reconstruct them with alterations to their width and their height in order to accommodate the new paramedic services use and residential uses that are being introduced. The EMS requirements include a number of specific and unique parameters to follow, including emergency vehicle parking on the ground floor, which requires specialized vehicle maneuvering and clearances for loading and the ambulances. And what you're seeing today as open-air bus bays will be altered to install new overhead doors, roll-up doors, spandrels, glazing, and access points. Next slide, please. This slide has been included so that you can see the existing versus proposed condition of those bus bays in that north elevation. So the height of the bus bays is proposed to be raised to allow for a second floor plate using a granite base. 3 of the original bays that are closest to the terminal building are to be reconstructed with their original width, whereas the remainder of the bays along Edward Street would be designed to meet the specialized requirements of the paramedic services use, while still maintaining the presence of a compatible rhythm along that street wall. And the new tower that's shown here above is stepped back behind those reconstructed bus bays. Next slide, please. This slide shows the principal east elevation of the terminal building on the left hand. The exterior of the building would be subject to a fulsome conservation scope, including repairs, repointing, and cleaning, new historically appropriate windows based on archival documentation, and some select alterations to openings for doors. On the right-hand side, you can see the Elizabeth Street elevation, which would be the reconstructed bus bays. Vehicular access to the site would still be proposed to come through this location, and there are new doors proposed for access to the paramedic hub that would be further detailed as the project progresses through site plan. Next slide, please. This slide shows a section of the redevelopment showing that interior space within the terminal building where the heritage attributes are being conserved. The existing staircase that's leading to the mezzanine level is proposed to be demolished and reconstructed with a rise-over run that's consistent with today's standard. And there would be some alterations to the leaded glass window with the gray coach line's crest in order to be repaired, as well as modified for a new light box behind it to illuminate the window. The final details of the interior space and its needs will be refined as a tenant is selected and as the project progresses to the more detailed design stage. And so staff would be reviewing the design details through the conservation plan. This is my last slide on this project, and staff are pleased to recommend the approval of the proposed application, which would conserve and adaptively reuse and integrate the city's iconic former gray coach terminal within a city-led project that achieves affordable housing as well as a new paramedic services hub. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we get to questions of staff, we have a speaker on the item, Andrew Pruss from ERA Architects. Welcome. I'll let you get settled, and as you do so, I'll say you've got 5 minutes, and I will, wave when you've got about 15 left, whenever you're ready.
Yes. Good morning. Can you hear me? Yes, my name is Andrew Pruss. I'm a principal with ERA Architects, and I'm the conservation architect on this project. And I don't have a presentation. I just like to make some brief remarks, and then I'm available for questions. As Aaron has provided a very thorough presentation, this is the product of a city-led initiative that involves a lot of collaborators. We initially worked with Creatio to help develop some of the directions and strategies associated with the project, and it went out to a public call. Tricon Kilmer is the developer of the project in partnership with the city, and I think it's an amazingly good news story for a landmark city asset that it will see an adaptive reuse, retaining the terminal, the coach terminal building in itself in its entirety, as well as adding commercial activity that will bring people into that part of the building, some essential facilities for the city like the EMS hub, and 100% purpose-built rental. And so I would just also like to highlight Studio Gang are the architects for the project. So the tower itself for residential is quite not common, it's quite unique, and the intent is that it's designed to complement the architecture of the existing building, which is also quite interesting and unique to Toronto, having been designed by a landmark architect who's done other buildings within the city. So I think those are my remarks. Thank you very much if there are questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have questions for our speaker? Paul.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. One is the presentation indicated the bus bays will be reconstructed. I'm wondering, are you planning to use the original materials for that reconstruction, or will there be new materials used when you rebuild it?
Yes, so the original materials are primarily Queenston limestone on the exterior, and there's brick and other elements behind that. So that Queenston limestone will all be salvaged. It is in a fairly deteriorated state, largely because of alterations and a pretty intensive use over the years. So we'll salvage materials that are in good condition. That material will be prioritized for repairs of the terminal itself. It's being retained, as well as the reconstructed first 3 bays of the building. And so we're expecting there will be a need to supplement it with new material, but absolutely we will be retaining as much as we can.
Okay, thank you. My second question is about the doors that will be used for the ambulance part of the structure. Some of those doors obviously will be big and will be accommodating vehicles. Those doors can be very pretty or very ugly as you look at fire halls and similar buildings. It's an area where there's a great deal of pedestrian traffic. It would be awfully nice if the whole part of that building looked attractive to the pedestrian as opposed to industrial, and institutional. I'm just wondering, has any thought been given to what you would do to make that as pretty a part of the building as you can?
Well, it's a good question, and I think it's certainly one of the objectives of both the EMS service as well as the design architects, that this looks good, even though it's a very function-intensive facade. It's a little bit early right now. Right now, we're looking at the strategy. There's been a lot of work and collaborative work to arrive at a design and layout that will be effective and useful for all users. So I think that would be part of a later stage in the development. We'll be generating a conservation plan. There'll be more detailed drawings prepared by the design architects, and those will all be subject to review by Heritage Planning.
Are there other questions for our speaker? Seeing none, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you.
We now move on to questions of staff. Are there any? Seeing none, discussion amongst ourselves. Jeff.
It's good to see whole building conservation.
100%. This is a very good news story.
It would appear that, I guess, I'm sort of wondering if there'll be any public access to the building in some way. But I should have asked Andrew, I guess.
One could hope. We've just had doors open Toronto, so.
Yeah, that would be.
I think there's a tremendous appetite to see the jewels of our city.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other discussion points? Seeing none, I have a staff report with recommendations before us. Would anybody like to move the recommendations in that report? Paul, thank you very much. All those in favor? Thank you. The motion carries. Moving on now to PB 32.5. Good morning, Dan.
Hello? I have a loud voice usually. Oh, there we go. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Dan DeBartolo of Heritage Planning. The item before you is a report recommending that Council approve an application for alterations to and demolition of heritage attributes at a designated heritage property under Section 33 and 34 of the Ontario Heritage Act, and authority to enter into a Heritage Easement Agreement at 15 Glen Street. Next slide, please. The property is located on the south side of Glen Morris Street, west of Spadina Avenue, and within the Huron-Sussex neighborhood. The property abuts a public laneway at the east property line. Next slide, please. The property at 15 Glen Morris Street is representative of a classic 1.5-story Ontario house. It was constructed in 1878 with brick and stucco cladding, with a veranda and gable dormer on the street-facing facade. The property was the first house constructed on the street and contributes to the historic character of the Huron-Sussex neighborhood. The photo at the right shows the property in 1973, when the primary heritage attributes of the property were still intact. Note the lower porch rail in that photo. This has been used as a guide for the proposed redesign and lowering of the entrance and porch for universal accessibility. The photo at the left is current. The previous owner had removed some of the heritage architectural attributes prior to the designation, which occurred in 2017. There have been other maintenance issues at the property. Staff has worked with MLS and the owner to rectify various issues pertaining to securing the property, ensuring a standard of maintenance. The current owner has been very cooperative and has worked well with staff to both address maintenance of the property while developing a rehabilitation and restoration scheme. Next slide, please. Various structural assessments have determined that the property is in poor condition. Excerpts of this assessment are in your report. Initially, the property was proposed for complete demolition. However, it was later determined that the front facade could be conserved and retained in situ. In conjunction with the retained front facade, the west and east side elevations and roof will be reconstructed. The porch and primary entry will be lowered to provide universal accessibility. The porch, including the brick piers, will be rebuilt to restore historic details and will retain similar proportions to the existing condition while lowering the rails similar to what you had seen in the 1973 photo. Wood elements such as the veranda columns, gable barge board, and wood windows will be reinstated. Next slide, please. Here you see the heritage property in conjunction with the proposed 8-story student residence. Next slide. New construction is designed to provide visual separation from the heritage property. The new building step back will be 4.8 meters from the front facade of the property and visually further when taking into account the veranda. The new construction will have a step back 1.1 meters to the rear of the house roof ridge with a 1-story reveal directly above the house. The development massing will then project forward, but its front wall will still be placed half meter to the rear of the house roof ridge. In addition, it should be mentioned that the front landscaping is proposed to be in keeping with the residential character of the street and of the property. So based on Heritage Planning staff's review of the conservation strategy for the property, staff recommends that the TPB approve the project subject to the recommendations in this report. This concludes my presentation. Thank you. I think there was supposed to be speakers, and I believe the consultant's here, but I don't see anyone.
The joys of hybrid. So before we get to questions of staff, we have Casper and Shelley from ERA Architects online. And we
I'm
have-
here.
Good morning.
Hello. Hi. Good morning,
Hi,
everyone.
you have a
Hi, Dan.
presentation?
I do. Yeah, it's brief. I will pull that up. Everyone can hear me okay?
And when it
Can
starts,
the
I will give you
host-
5 minutes and let you know when you're close to running out.
Sure, thank you. I think the host needs to grant me some permissions to share a PDF, please. Here we go. Okay, can everyone see that presentation?
Yes, you are good to go. I'll start your time.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Hello, Chair, members of the board. My name is Shelley Ludman. I'm an architect with ERA Architects, and we are the Heritage Architects on the file today. I'll also note that I'm joined by the property owner, Richard Ramos. He's online as well on behalf of Coastone Developments. He's available to answer any questions following my presentation if need be. So just a few additional context shots. I know Dan spoke about the context, but we wanted to just mention that the property is on the south side of Glen Street between Spadina and Huron. And these are some photos that give you a sense of properties to the east and west on the south side of Glen Morris, one being the U of T Graduate House and one being the U of T Early Learning Center. As Dan mentioned, the owner has been very proactive in ensuring that the property has remained safe and protected while development approvals are underway. And so this is just a current photo of the mothballed protected building with hoarding around. Regular checks have occurred to ensure that the property remains stable and vacant and secured. So at a high level, this is just a diagram that summarizes the strategy that Dan already outlined. You can see sort of in the legend here that, as Dan mentioned, the front facade is intended to be retained in situ, with everything proposed to be rebuilt, flagged in blue. We are proposing to lower that front porch and reconstruct it for universal accessibility, as well as provide a new opening on the west elevation fronting onto the laneway to complete the symmetry of openings on that elevation. And everything to the rear of the property will be removed to allow for new construction. So again, just some further detail on that, similar diagrams to what Dan included. And what I'd like to flag here is the sort of transition articulated by the design architect that allows really for the retained building at 15 Glen Morris to stand as sort of a standalone residential component at the front of this development, allowing for that transition clad in a gray siding to really allow for visual separation between the retained building and the new adjacent residential component to the rear. And that's where I'll leave it, and happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So do we have any questions for our speakers, which include, as Shelley noted, the property owner? Seeing none, thank you very much for your time and being here today. Do we have any questions for staff? Seeing none, discussion amongst ourselves. I have a staff report with recommendations before us. Would anybody like to move the recommendations in that report? Mitchell, thank you very much. All those in favor? The motion carries. Thank you very much, everybody, for your time. Moving on to our final item, PB 32.6, the Toronto Heritage Grant Awards. And Meredith, welcome. As well as Alex and Michael. Just Alex.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Meredith Holland. I'm an assistant planner with the City of Toronto and Heritage Planning on the Development Review team, and I'm here to present item 32.6, the 2025 Toronto Heritage Grant Awards. To start, here's a map. Sorry, next slide. Oh, Hans already got me. To start, this is a map of our 2025 Heritage Grant recipients, for which there are 22 across 6 of the awards. Please note that this map is just for reference only. It is not drawn to scale. Next slide, please. Before we dive into this year's recipients, I'd like to provide a brief overview of what we do in this grant program. The Toronto Heritage Grant Program provides matching grant funds for eligible heritage conservation work of residential properties or tax-exempt properties in the City of Toronto, designated under the Ontario Heritage Act. Applicants may receive a grant every 5 years. Once for up to 50% of the cost of eligible conservation work. This includes owners of house-form buildings who may receive up to $10,000 every 5 years or up to $20,000 every 10 years if they are replacing an entire cedar or slate roof assembly. This also includes owners of non-house-form buildings and any tax-exempt properties, including house-form buildings, who may be eligible for a grant equivalent to 50% of the cost with no maximum limit. Next slide, please. We would like to start with one of our notable applications. This is a group of row houses on Alpha Avenue in the Cabbagetown North HCD seeking to restore their slate roofs. Each of these applicants has been awarded with $9,600 approximately. Next slide, please. This is a notable application as well. This is a group of row houses on Amelia Street in the Cabbagetown North HCD seeking to repair decorative wood elements on their front facades. Each of these applicants have been awarded with approximately $9,200. Next slide, please. This is 35 Bishop Street, which is also notable because this is an individually designated building in the Yorkville-Hazleton HCD. They are seeking to repair the lime-based stucco through restoration, which is an attribute in the designation bylaw. They have been awarded with $10,000. Next slide, please. This is 395 Carlton Street, which is a property in the Cabbagetown North HCD seeking masonry restoration. They have been awarded $10,000. Next slide, please. This is 417 Dundas Street East in the Cabbagetown Southwest HCD seeking masonry restoration. They have been awarded with $10,000. Next slide, please. This is 11 Laurier Avenue in the Cabbagetown North HCD. They are seeking repairs to the decorative wood elements on the front facade for $10,000. Next slide, please. This is an individually designated building called 22 Linden Boulevard, and they are seeking to rebuild 3 chimneys, which are attributes in the designation bylaw, and they have been awarded $10,000. Next slide, please. This is 726 Meadowvale Road, which is an individually designated property seeking window restoration, otherwise known as the Adams Hawkins House, in the Upper Canadian Vernacular style, and they have been awarded $10,000. This is 332 Seaton Street in the Cabbagetown North HCD. They are seeking door restoration and Heritage Report grant, and they have been awarded approximately $9,200. Next slide, please. This is 306 Wellesley Street East in the Cabbagetown North Heritage Conservation District seeking masonry restoration, and they also have been awarded with $10,000. Next slide, please. This is 385 Brunswick Avenue, which is an individually designated building. They are seeking to restore the grand staircase, which is an attribute and as per the Beaux-Arts style design that you're seeing here, because it used to be a school, and they have been awarded approximately $61,000. Next slide, please. This is one of our notable applications. This is 2867 Kennedy Road. It's an individually designated property known as the Hugh Clark House, built in the Regency style. They are seeking window restoration, wood detail repairs, and masonry repointing, and they also have been awarded $61,000. Next slide. This is my last slide. This is 51 Tiverton Avenue in the Riverdale HCD. They are seeking to restore the decorative original wooden elements, and they also have been awarded approximately $9,700. That was my last slide. I open up the floor for questions, and I have my colleague Alex here if you have any more questions. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Before we get to questions of staff, we have Councillor Nick Mantis on the phone, I think, online. Just give it one moment. Councillor? We'll move into questions of staff, and if the councillor is able to sort of connect with us, then we'll make sure that he gets his time. So moving on with the heritage grants, are there questions of staff? Seeing none, is there discussion amongst ourselves? Mitchell?
Just a comment. I thought, again, another good news story for the day. It was especially nice to see the sort of groupings of properties in heritage conservation districts that are kind of working together to make their street better. And yeah, it'll be really impactful. Looking forward to seeing the results.
Absolutely. Any other discussion points? Talking very slowly, Councillor? Well, unfortunately, I don't think we've been able to connect. I have a staff report with recommendations before us. Would anybody like to move the recommendations in that report? Jeff, all those in favor? The motion carries. Fantastic. We have our next meeting on June the 30th, and I look forward to seeing everybody then. Until that time, have a lovely rest of your week, and thank you very much to staff and to clerks and everybody else who makes this possible. Thank you. Have a great day. The meeting is adjourned.